Hi, it's Mark Bossard from Top Local Lead Generation. We're talking with franchise expert in Western Canada, Mr. Chuck Prenovo from FranNet. How are you doing today, Chuck?
I'm doing excellent, Mark. How are you doing?
Good, good. So we're talking about one of the more important kind of things in my view, which is what sort of questions am I going to ask the franchisor
Mm-hmm.
before I buy a franchise? So the first one on my list here is how much is the total investment with working capital?
Well, areas where a lot of people, you they kind of sometimes, what is that total investment? And the way I like to explain it to any of my clients is to think of it as kind of four buckets. So the first bucket would be how much is the franchise fee itself? So the franchisor will be right up front, tell you about what that number is. And what we typically see is in that $30,000 to $50,000 range is not uncommon these days. So that's the first bucket. The second bucket would come into what's the startup cost. So that could be anything from buying equipment, buying a vehicle, maybe leasing a location, build out cost, any of those. How, what is the cost for me to open my doors? All right. And that usually includes a training, some level of training as well that the franchisor will provide. The third bucket really is what I think is a lot of overlook and get themselves into trouble, but it's working capital. How much do I need in this third bucket to ramp my business up in the first 6, 8, 12 months? So in the first year of business, ultimately it's how much do I need to get myself to break even? All right. So that's the third bucket. And the fourth one is, one of those areas where, again, you need to take a step back, see what your household expenses are, and have that fourth bucket almost as a savings type of account where if I'm going to ramp this business up over the next 8 to 12 months, get myself to break even, how much do I need to cover my household expenses? So I don't get myself into any trouble that way. So to me, those are the four buckets that would create a total investment. And I really like talking about that with clients so they understand all four aspects of it.
Okay, that seems pretty clear and logical. Second question here is what systems are in place to support me as a franchisee? This again, I'm asking this of the franchisor. So why is that important?
Um, well, you want to understand if you're going to buy this particular franchise, you want to do enough research to understand what those support mechanisms are for me. Again, what's in place to get me to break even? So again, it kind of loops right back into the money side of it. And the systems that I generally look at are the how do I drive top line revenue? So how do I bring sales into my new business? So that usually involves a level of marketing. What are the marketing strategies around driving business to my front door? And that comes in very various forms and fashions. Again, the research will help you understand that about that particular franchise system. But ultimately, you want to get it down to what are my activities as an owner that I need to do to bring business in to the front door. I refer to a book in a lot of my presentations, The E-Myth, by, excuse me, by Michael Gerber. And Michael Gerber always talks about, are you the technician in the business or are you the owner of the business? Right? So are you going to be the one out there in the trenches or are you going to be working on the strategy and business development? So that's a huge part of what I look at. The next part I look at, Mark, is around the internal systems. Again, training, support. If it's, let's say, more of a retail location, then it's what are those point of sale systems and accounting systems that are in place to make me focus on my strengths, not necessarily my weaknesses. I know for myself, accounting is definitely not a super strong suit for me. I know it's necessary and I do it, but I'd rather be out selling. So where are those areas that you could really leverage? And then that training and support is the last area. what is the franchisor offering or going to give you before you open your doors, grand opening, and then what does the next year look like, right? How are they going to support you? What does that involve? So those are the three areas from, what are the systems in place that franchisors would offer me as a potential franchisee.
Well, isn't it like the systems is really what you're buying, isn't it? It's sure there's a brand, sure there might be some recognition in the marketplace, but often maybe that's not even the case. But really, what you're buying is that they've built out the systems that of a successful business in that particular niche, and then that's what you get. You walk in and know that you can just follow a proven strategy of here's the step by step. For me it'd be this dummy, and you can't screw it up. Isn't that what you're buying?
That's a huge part of what you're buying. Absolutely, Mark. Those systems. The way I explain it in a lot of my public seminars is the franchisor has developed this business system over a number of years. They've tested it, tried it. They've made their mistakes. They know how they overcame those mistakes, how they fixed it. So, in other words, you're not reinventing the wheel, right? One of the examples I refer to is when I first started my business a long time ago. It took me 4 years, the beginning of the fourth year, before I broke even. Okay, it was a tough go. I had to create all my own systems. If I already had those systems in place, I probably would have ramped up, I think, much quicker. So it's a huge part of what the franchisor it brings to the table from a franchisee or a potential franchisee perspective.
So asking these questions specifically gives you that idea of, am I comfortable with this franchise, as well as is it matching my strengths? Well, the systems they provide are all my strengths. I'm not really getting anything. Or on the opposite side, and way more of a green light, is they're great on marketing, and I've got the accounting side handled because I was an accountant or whatever. I was a financial guy. But whatever the particular franchisee,
Mm-hmm.
potential franchisee strengths are. So that's how you can start to evaluate whether X franchise is better than Y franchise for you.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head, Mark. It's about that match. That what do you bring to the table? What does the franchisor bring to the table? Can you leverage both sides of the equation, the strengths of each? And that usually is a great indicator of the how strong or how successful potentially you could be within that franchise system. It's part of your research, and research takes time. You're not going to get it all on the first one or two calls with the franchisor. It's not the way they particularly operate. They want to qualify you as much as you qualify them. So it's a number of conversations to get that information.
Awesome. Chuck, I think we're understanding this more. It's great to be able to talk to a franchise expert and get the lowdown of the value of and how not to get into the wrong situation for yourself with a franchise. So thanks a lot. We've been talking with Chuck Prenoveau. He's a franchise expert in Western Canada. You can reach him at 1-604-849-0278. Give him a call. If your situation has changed and a franchise might be in your future, he's the guy to talk to in Western Canada. Thanks, Chuck.
Thanks very much, Mark.